welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. Genesis 5:22 reads, Enoch walked with God. The single sentence, 4 words, is wonderfully concise yet powerfully descriptive of the spiritual condition of that long-ago believer. We know almost nothing about Enoch, but after all, what more do we need to know? And what better thing could ever be said of anyone? Enoch walked with God. God is, of course, invisible physically to us while in this world, but walking with Him is like walking with a dear friend when the mists have come down. We cannot see Him, yet we know He is there. We can hear His voice, grasp His hand, catch the echo of His steps. We know He is there, and that is enough. Enoch and God walked together simply by Enoch's exercising the faith that fills the invisible with one great loving face. We can do it too, and the reason this verse is in the Bible is to encourage us to do it. By choosing and to accept His presence, to allow our hearts to feel out after Him, our souls can sense His holy being. As we go through the hustle and bustle of our daily lives, with all the perplexities and decisions and everyday routines and temptations, we can choose to have a faith in and contact with our great Creator that can give us the same testimony as Enoch. We too have walked with God. By purity of heart and life, we can bring Him nearer and make ourselves more keenly aware of His presence. We need to walk with someone. Loneliness can be a terrible ordeal, and it is possible to be lonely in a crowd. The deepest loneliness comes from within, from the isolation that is a result of not knowing how to connect with others. If we close light out of the windows of our hearts with the dark shutters of sin, we make ourselves even more alone and can become so surrounded with fear from the strange noises of the night, the dismal feelings of rejection and painful heartbreak that howl hauntingly at our emotional doorstep. We actually find our hopes to be nothing but the breaking waves of bitterness. David wrote about that in the Psalms. I am a stranger with thee, and a sojourner, as all my fathers were. If he had left out these 2 little words, with thee, he would have been uttering a tragic complaint. I am a stranger. But when his description of his condition contains those words, all that is painful, all that is solitary, all that is transient, bitterly transient, the long succession of the generations that have passed across earth's scene and have not been kindred to it, it is cleared away and changes into gladness. Never mind, though you are a stranger, if you have God for a companion. Never mind, though you are only a sojourner, not having anywhere you fit in this world. If you have Him with you, whatever passes, He will not pass. And though we dwell here in a system to which we do not belong, this transiency and our transiency bring with them many sorrows. When we can say, Lord, Thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations, we're at home. And that eternal home will never pass. Enoch walked with God, and nothing could be more natural than the consequence of that walk. God took him. That's the only possible result of a life of communion with God for this old brother from the ancient dusty past, and it is still the only possible result of the life of anyone today who has that same testimony of walking with God. It isn't so hard. It begins by starting the morning with some time in prayer, a sip from the pages of the Bible, keeping Him in our thoughts through the day. We all know He's watching everything we do. Walking with Him amounts then to considering how to make the things we do so when He sees them, He'll be glad. As Paul told the Philippians, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. You will find while you are thinking of Him, He's thinking of you, and has a way of letting you feel His presence walking along through the adventures of your life, step for step, being your God. Have you talked to Him today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.